Happy Friday, and welcome to the Daily Truca Show. I am learning eCam, and today I have some very special things to share with you, but first off, I want to say welcome. Leo had a trip today, and so he's out of town at the moment. We'll be back with us on Monday. So today I am flying solo, and I'm learning eCam, and Leo usually takes care of eCam. So forgive me for any technical challenges that might arise. And every single day is an opportunity for us to get better. And I'm going to talk to you about that today. What to do in business when things get hard. By the end of today's show, I'm going to show you the formulas and the patterns that I use to ensure that when things get tough in business, rather than things jamming up, things slowing down, things going sideways, things going off the rails, we look ahead, we plan for tough times, we figure out what to do in those tough times, and we work through them. Because the more you grow, the person that you want to be in 5 years, I challenge you, ask yourself, the person I want to be in 5 years, will they be dealing with bigger challenges or less challenges? Well, if we're honest with ourselves, the person you want to be in 5 years is probably going to be dealing with more challenges and even bigger challenges than the current person is dealing with. So if that's the case, then my gosh, we got to get better at dealing with challenges. Will the 5 year from now Andrew be stronger, better, more able to make decisions, a better CEO, a better leader, or where he is? And if he wants to be better, then he's got to take these moments to learn. So how are you feeling today? Give me a rating in the chat. I do not yet know how to view comments. I'm certain that I can figure it out, but we will either way get the chat going. Hey, I found the button. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. How's your energy? 1 out of 10. Share with me how you're feeling. All right. So we're going to dive in. What to do when things get tough. What to do when things in business are difficult, are hard. How do we handle the hard things? Well, there's a few things that we do, but the number one thing I do is, and I want you to write this down if you're taking notes, today is going to be a note-taking day because there's going to be a lot of growth today. It's going to be an episode you want to go back and re-listen to. You're going to go back and re-watch and go, oh my goodness, there was some major nuggets in there. There's probably been an episode you want to share out with your friends and family as well, because there's a lot of things in here that over the last 11 years, I have learned through trial and error and the hard things in life and mentors. Leo and I spend a lot of money on mentors and masterminds that we're a part of. Why? Because we want to always continue growing and learning. We learn it. We want to bring it back to our crew. So I see Elizabeth, 9.5. I love that, Elizabeth. Lori's a 7. Welcome, Lori. I'm glad you're here. Looneyville's an 8. Good. It's a beautiful Friday. And Bill Welsh is an 8+. It's better than 8 minus. So welcome in. Welcome in. Number one, the thing I do when I am having difficulty in business or frankly in life is I pause for a moment. Guys, it may sound super simple. I'm going to get to the deeper pieces in just a minute, but this is something that I didn't do for so long. Things would get tough. A decision would need made. A deal would go sideways. And rather than taking a moment and saying, all right, hang on, let me just take a second, I would just go harder at that thing. The deal's falling apart. Let me call 28 more lenders and see if somebody will lend me. The bank wouldn't lend me. Let me go apply 29 more times. Well, crap. Now I got 30 hard inquiries on my credit. And so I would consistently just go do these things. And it took me years to learn, wait a second. There's a reason that resistance is happening. Is this something I am causing for myself? Russ is a 9.5. I love that, Russ. So number one, pause for a minute. Reflect. I talk to God. I'm like, God, is there a lesson here? I want to learn it fast because I used to learn lessons slowly, and that getting thumped upside the head one too many times. I want to learn lessons more quickly now. So how do I learn this lesson quickly? So number one, pause. Take a minute. Why? Because sometimes the answer is literally right in front of you. you don't download that information. It doesn't occur to you until you pause. If you've ever went down a street, I walked down a street countless times, and you can drive down that street over and over again, and you don't notice something. Maybe there's a sign on the pole, or there's a specific little tree or plant, or there's some little intrinsic detail that you don't even notice driving down the street because you're going 20, 30, 40, 50, 80 miles an hour, however fast you drive, and depending on the street. But one day you take a walk down that street, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a beautiful little plant. Oh my goodness, I didn't ever seen that sign before. Was that there? Oh, I didn't realize that house had a pool back there. Why? Because you're slowing down, you're pausing, and you're taking a moment to notice detail. My grandpa was born in 1914, I believe. My grandma in 1923. And some of their neighbors, when they started getting cars, said they didn't want to, when they started getting horses and buggies rather than walking years ago, they got the money to buy a horse and buggy. And they said, we don't want to ride the horse and buggy because there's too much that we would miss. When we walk, we see everything. But when we ride the horse and buggy, that horse just goes too darn fast. Then, my gosh, what happened when we got to cars? So, number one is take a minute, pause. Number two, ask yourself, what actions can I take to solve this challenge? Something that I have this little habit of doing is, let's say it could be a challenge, and I'm telling you, the more sensitive you get, the more intuitive you get, the more willing you are to review the reality before it happens, the easier your business becomes. I'll give you an example. Imagine you aren't paying attention, and this was me years ago. You aren't paying attention, and one day, boom, something goes sideways. A mortgage payment goes up because escrow was figured off. Oh, crap, I got another $400 a month going out. And then you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden the city hits you with a fine because maybe one of your houses, a tenant in there, didn't clean up the crap. Or maybe you had a client, and the client is complaining, and you have to take care of that client. And now maybe something else happens, and I don't know, a deal that you had contracted fell through. And so before long, you're trucking along thinking things are cool, but now you're distracted. You're no longer creating new revenue. You're distracted over here taking care of challenges. Oh, I didn't realize that. Ah, crap, I didn't realize that. Had you just paid attention to what was coming down the pipe, had you just paid attention, had a good management company watching that tenant, had we just paid attention and said, oh gosh, how do we make sure this person understands expectation? How do we set expectation properly? If we pay attention, we can not only solve most problems before they're challenges, but we can, called preventative maintenance, but we can also, when we do have a challenge, anticipate that challenge. So now, when there ever is litigation or a challenge, there's attorneys on staff, and there is a legal fund that takes care of putting challenges to rest. Why? Because there's no reason to not anticipate it when we know in business there's going to be times where the lead flow is not as strong as you need it to be or want it to be. There's going to be times when the deal doesn't close. So if we can anticipate this, now we can plan for it. Here's the important part. 10 ways to solve the problem. Now, I want to rephrase that. It may not be a problem. Maybe it's something you see coming down the pipe. You go, hey, I want to grow this year. I want this to be my first or best $1 million year. That's not a problem per se. That's just a choice that you're making to let's go tackle this thing. Let's knock it out. Hey, Andrew, I just want to have my first six-figure year. Cool. I just want to have my first $30,000 a month. Cool. Pick that number and now determine 10 ways you could solve this. What's 10 ways you could bring this to a reality? Maybe you have a deal that's falling through. The title, if you're buying a house, the title has a challenge. What's 10 ways you could solve the title challenge? Who can you call? Who knows the answer? Because often what we do is we get in our own heads. And I'm preaching to myself. I'm looking at myself on the screen right now and saying, it's so easy to get caught up and go, I don't know. Could I? Could I take care of it this way? And we don't know what we don't know. So when you come to the I don't know, number one, always have mentor, mastermind people surrounding you who do know. But number two, I'm telling you, we have AI. You can log into ChatGPT. If you don't have the paid version, go get it for $20 a month. You can log in and you can start having a chat with it. I talk to ChatGPT countless times every week. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, what about this? What about this challenge? What about this solution? What's 10 ways I could solve this? Add this. I don't like what you said here. Let's change it to this. And we go back and forth. Why? Not that it knows my entire business yet, but what it does know is everything it's learned off the internet. What it does know is what I've taught it about us and our business. So now it can give me feedback and it can spark ideas in my mind. Oh, that's a good idea. So from 10 ways to solve the problem, write it down if you're taking notes, develop an action plan. Number one, pause. Take a minute, reflect. Talk to God. Ask yourself, what's the lesson here? Number two, write down 10 ways to meet the goal or solve the problem. What are 10 ways? Imagine that you say, I want to have my first $100,000 quarter. Let's just pick a number and say that that was your goal. I remember when I started, I wanted to get to $2,000 a month. I remember in 2014 going, if I could just make $2,000 a month, I'll be set. How things have changed. So let's say you want to have your first $100,000 quarter. Maybe that it's time. You have your first $100,000 quarter. You go, what's 10 ways I could do this? Another way to ask that is if, God forbid, you had a gun to your head and you had to make $100,000 in the next 90 days or you died, just over $1,000 a day. What would you do? You go, well, gosh, I could sell this thing. I could do this thing. I could take on this responsibility. Shoot, maybe I could come up with an offer. Maybe I could learn to wholesale real estate. You start to immediately develop all of these things you could do. Not that you know now how to do them. Some things you may know how to do and some things you don't yet know how to do. But you're listing out all the things you could do if you had to make $100,000 in 90 days. Okay? Now you write it out. Or you've got the challenge in front of you. Oh my gosh, I got this problem. This problem, this person has this challenge, this client, this thing that's facing me, this relationship, whatever the thing is for you. What's 10 things I could do? What's 10 ways I can make this relationship better? What's 10 ways I can help this person have success? What's 10 ways I could do whatever the thing is? You fill in the blank. Now, number 3, determine an action plan. 1, pause. 2, write down 10 possible outcomes. 3, develop an action plan. How do we develop an action plan? We take the 10 things we've written. Maybe it's more than 10. Again, have chats with ChatGPT if you're struggling with this. And if you don't know what to ask it what you should ask it. And you say, all right, an action plan is. Now, here's where we get caught up. I always remember saying in the beginning stages, it's like, oh, but I could go get the deal, but then I don't have the money to close it. Oh, but I could go do this thing, but then that. And our mind starts to self-sabotage. If you're taking notes, write it down. Never self-sabotage. Don't allow your mind to do it. Take control of your thoughts. Your mind will start playing tricks on you. But what if this goes wrong? And what if that? But that might happen, and then this could happen. And then if I do that, then that might happen. We start going down this whole rabbit trail of possibilities of alternative outcomes before we even take the first freaking action. Now, it's good to weigh the cost. It's good to make a plan. But sometimes we just have to take the action. So you say, all right, I took a moment, I've reflected, I've come up with 10 ways that I could perhaps make this happen. 10 ways I could perhaps solve it. Now my action plan. First, I'm going to try X. First, I'm going to try this move. First, I'm going to try doing 10 sales calls a day. First, I'm going to try X. I'm going to go on a trip. First, I'm going to take my wife on a vacation. Now you can start your first action plan. Because when we start moving forward in an action plan with certainty, things begin to line up. Here's what I mean by that. Everything, I often say this, and it's very broad, but it's going to make more sense. I'll explain it. That is, everything either is something or leads to something. In other words, I've paid for other seminars at other times that didn't deliver on what I'd hoped. But rather than being upset or complaining, I realized that at those seminars, I met other people who were great connects. So I just say, thank you, God. Everything leads to something. And then there's those I go to and I'm going, oh my gosh, this exceeded my expectations. That's even more awesome. And so you're going to take an action. I remember starting out in the real estate investing business, and I started putting out bandit signs, and I started putting sticky notes on doors. Well, sticky notes didn't click, but the bandit signs did. And so I got my first wholesale deal. Now, I share that because I was just making a movement. And there's times for all of us where we just have to move the needle forward. Business is hard. Sometimes we just have to call up somebody close to us, call up somebody in the Truca group, call up somebody around you, a friend or a family member, and say, dude, I'm freaking struggling right now. Struggling does not need to be a way of life. Struggling is a temporary challenge you go through that you solve as quickly as possible. Why? Because we get stronger. The struggle is supposed to make us stronger. The reason some people live in the struggle is because they don't allow it to make them stronger. That was me for years. I was like, oh gosh, I just got to get through this struggle, and on the other side, things will be better. No, I didn't realize that the struggle is what made me strong. God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. For each of you, reading the comments, Truca says God is good all the time, and I presume that's Brother Leo. What I want to point out for you is as you are gaining strength in the struggle, it doesn't always feel the most sexy in the moment. It doesn't always feel the most enjoyable in the moment. But what does happen is because we've gone through the struggle, everything begins to seemingly be easier. I'll share this quick note with you. Some of you have heard me tell this when we've been together in person, but in probably 2003 or 4, we had chickens for years. We had laying hens. And my gosh, if we still had those, maybe we'd be worth a few million more now with egg prices. It's 2003, 2004, somewhere in that range, early 2000s. And our laying hens are doing well. We're buying their golden comets. They're the golden chickens. So they lay the eggs. And we decided we wanted to hatch some baby chickens. I'm a little guy. I'm 11, 12 years old, maybe a little younger at the time. So we saved up our money and went down to the TSC, the Tractor Supply Company, and we bought a incubator. And that incubator, we wrote down, we took a little marker, a little Sharpie, and we put a little X on one side of the egg. Because every so many hours, you have to turn those eggs over. Because when a mama hen's sitting on those eggs, she sits over them and she takes her beak and turns them every few hours. So we have to turn them every few hours so they don't bake. Instead, they warm and they heat it. I think it's 96.2 degrees or something like that. And we turn them for days and days and days. It takes, I think, 20-something days for them to hatch. And, of course, not all of them hatch. But the fertilized eggs, the ones that are hatchable, eventually start to hatch. And I'd always heard that you should never break them out of their shells. My parents would not let us break them out of their shells. They said they are building strength. I'm a little guy. I'm watching them. And it would take them hours to come break the shell open. And so I remember one day seeing this little baby chicken peck on this eggshell for hours. I checked on him probably 6 or 8 times over an 8-hour period. I felt so sorry for that little guy. And finally, I looked around. Nobody was in there. The incubator's warm. So I took the lid off the incubator. The little chickie's beak was peeking through. He was struggling. And I just reached in there and boop, just gave a little push and popped the egg open for him. He stretched out and he was free. And I felt so good about myself. until about 30 minutes later, I went back in there and the little fella was dead. Now, why did that little chicken die? Because the strength that he would have gained by pecking the egg open is the strength that would have gave him the ability to get up and walk over to the food and watering trough within seconds or minutes from popping out of the egg and now being free and able to eat and grow. I share this because God allows us, and this is such a powerful moment for each of us, how to deal with the hard things in business. God is allowing us to face the challenge, the buyer that falls through, the seller that falls through, the client that fell through, the close that didn't happen, the sales call that went sideways, the deal that fell apart, the client that you thought you had that left. All of those things are happening because if you don't go through that at this level, you'll never be ready for the next level. And because every challenge I went through for the first several years of business, I was looking for the other side of the challenge rather than the lesson in the challenge. It's a writer downer. Look for the lesson in the challenge. Type it in the chat. That's a long one. Look for the lesson in the challenge. And because I was so focused on getting through the challenge to survive to the other side and not looking for the lesson in the midst of the challenge, I didn't get the strength. Therefore, I continued the same cycle over and over again. Challenge to challenge to challenge. And it wasn't until when Leo and I teamed up, and I just went through a tough time in my life, and we're talking, and in the moments of tough challenges, Leo would look at me and be like, there's a lesson here somewhere. We'll tell this story one day. And I share that because as you look for the lesson in the challenge, now not only does the challenge seem easier because you realize it's just a test, it's just a lesson, it's just an opportunity. If we can pass this one, we're ready for the next level. And the moment my perspective was able to shift from, oh crap, I got to survive another stupid challenge, to, oh my gosh, thank you, God, for trusting me with this challenge right now. That means I'm leveling up. Now, because the challenge may not change, but the perspective does, and your creativity is now being released in a whole new way. Guys, I think it's such an important thing as you're looking at this. Now, some of you may be thinking right now, but Andrew, that's a cool idea, but I am faced with so many freaking challenges. Where do I even begin? I often ask myself, what is the thing I can solve the fastest right now? Because many times as business owners, you've got to make the calls. You've got to call the client. You've got to handle the marketing. You've got to handle the posts on social media. You've got to handle the training, the fulfillment, the building, all of the pieces. You got to make sure sales are coming in so you can then run the business. But you got to make sure that everyone who has bought is getting service so you can then continue to grow the business so you can provide more value to others. And business can feel sometimes like an overwhelming trap until we look at it and simplify it, break it down and say, wait a second, what is the fastest thing I can solve today, right now? In fact, if you're taking notes, write it down. What's the fastest thing I can solve right now? You're facing a challenge. Maybe it's a cash flow shortage temporarily in your business or in your life. All right, what's the way I can solve it right now? Well, gosh, Andrew, it's deeper than that. I get it. But what if it's just saying right now I could go ahead and make this phone call? I could go ahead and sell this thing, move this around. What if there's an action you could take and it's actually way simpler than we've been making it out to be? What if there's a way to play the game that it was actually meant to cause you to go from the land of constant struggle and never enough to the land of always more than enough? And what if it actually has very little to do with what you are doing and everything to do with who you are becoming? This was the biggest thing for me, was I thought it was all about what I do. Gosh, I just need to make more sales. I just need to do more of this thing. I need to do more of that thing. It's very much about becoming. And much less about doing. Because when you become the business owner, when you become the king's kid that you were purposed to be, when you become the person who can make decisions quickly, when you become the person who can just solve the challenge and not overcomplicate it, I get there's some challenges that go deep. There's some relationships, there's some businesses, and there is layers to it. So I get that reality. But at the same time, let's just take a quick poll. How many of you realize at some points in your life you have way overcomplicated some things? I'll be the first one to say yes. Give me a yes in the chat if that's you. There has been times in your life and in mine that we have tremendously overcomplicated the thing. There has been calls that I needed to make years ago. I would put off calling sellers when I was wanting to do deals. Say, oh my gosh, I got to do this call. And then what if they say this? And I'd get on the phone and I'd be done in 2 minutes with the freaking phone call and have done the deal or not done the deal. I'd wasted 2 hours dreading the freaking call that I was going to call and either close the deal or not. If I would have spent 2 minutes preparing instead of 2 hours, I would have had the same darn outcome, but I would have had it done in 4 minutes instead of 2 hours. And I share that because so many times that's the way our business is. Oh gosh, I needed to send the email and I need to write that. And I need to call a private lender. I need to call the seller. I need to call the client. I need to close the deal. But gosh, where do I don't know. It's a crazy Friday. I'll get back to this on Monday, right? So we start to excuse ourselves because of the challenges that are in front of us rather than saying, wait a second, it's Friday. I can knock this all out before the weekend and I can start fresh on Monday. Let me call this person. Let me call this person. Let me take care of this client. Let me take care of this one. And let me knock this out right now. Boom. You can do way more than you think you can in way less time than you think if you just do specific actions and if you just become the person who can knock things out rapidly. Well, that's easy to say, Andrew. How do I become that person? Are you ready for the 3 steps? About to wrap this up. I'm a preacher's kid, so as I continue to close, that's what my dad used to always say when he would preach for extra long periods of time, as I continue to close. Number 1, when you feel jammed up, when you are struggling with this, when you feel like you need to grow, number 1, my solution, I always talk to God and read. I believe reading the Bible is God talking to me, and talking to God is what I do in prayer. So God talks to me, I talk to him. We have a communication going on. That's number 1 for me. That's always a grounding basis. Meditate, ground myself, talk to God, read, let him talk to me, open my mind for what I might be missing. Number 2, ask myself, what is some actions I can take that actively help me become more of that person? In other words, if the lack is in finances, who can I go give something to right now? If the lack is in confidence, how can I go boost somebody else's confidence right now? If the lack is in, time, well, how can I go give time to somebody right now? Just go have a conversation with somebody who looks lonely. I'm so darn busy. I get it. Except when we share what we most need, it begins to multiply. Number 1, talk to God. Let him talk to you. Number 2, go put that to work. Go become that person. Ask yourself, what's that action I can do to become that person? And number 3, here's how you're going to become. By consistently doing the things that person would do. You're going to become by consistently doing the things that person would do. How do I become a $1 million a year business CEO? How do I become a $10 million a year business CEO? How do I become this person? Well, what would that person do? Who are those people? And how can I implement what they would do and be more like that? Because if I am taking those consistent actions and thinking in that way, I am becoming that person. So make sure you're constantly gathering data. Make sure you're constantly putting yourselves in positions to think how they think, act how they act. If you're wanting to get closer to God, get around people who have an incredible relationship with God that you respect and look up to. If you're wanting to get more healthy, get around the healthy people who take care of their bodies like you want to take care of yours. If you want to make more money, get around the people who know how to put deals together, who know how to make money, who know how to sell stuff, who know how to add enough value to the marketplace that the marketplace loves to give you money back. Guys, this is a game changer when you can begin to put these principles to work. I got a lot more I could cover, but I think that is the message I felt I needed to deliver today. So I'm going to wind up with this note for you. Take consistent action. Most things are not nearly as bad as we make them out to be in our mind. 90% of the things, probably more like 99% of the things we worry about are not going to happen anyway. They're going to go better than you thought. And the 1% that you worried about that did go wrong, it didn't help it go any better by you worrying about it. So plan, prepare, take action, put it in God's hand. Don't worry about a thing, and know it's going to work out just like it should. Guys, thanks for being here today with me on the Daily Trucca Show on this solo episode. I will see you guys. Leo and I will be back Monday. Same place, same time. Have a wonderful and blessed weekend. Go make it count. Enjoy some time with God and family, and go get some monies. Bye for now.